a remote village in Tlaxcala, Mexico. Two brothers and a handful of local farmers accidentally break through into an underground chamber while clearing land for cultivation. Inside lies evidence of a pre-Columbian royal burial, ornate jade jewelry, gold artifacts, and ceremonial vessels sealed away for centuries. But their discovery attracts unwanted attention. A landowner who claims the property, a black market antiquities dealer operating in the region, and the Mexican government's archaeological authorities. As the brothers race to document and protect what they've found, they must navigate conflicting loyalties, environmental dangers within the unstable tomb, and the question of whether this treasure belongs to museums, the state, or the community that has lived on this land for generations. Chapter 1. The Breaking Point. The dry earth of Tlaxcala hadn't seen rain in 43 days. Ramon and Diego Martinez had spent the morning breaking ground on their father's plot, a modest inheritance, 3 hectares of hardened soil that their family had worked for 3 generations. The brothers moved in rhythm. Pickaxe, shovel, wheelbarrow. At 32 and 28, they still had the strength, though the work was monotonous and the profit uncertain. Around 2 in the afternoon, Ramon felt the resistance change. The pickaxe struck stone instead of compacted earth. Not a surface rock, something deeper, structured. Diego came over, wiping sweat from his forehead with a bandana stained from weeks of dust. "Hit something solid," Ramon said. They dug around it. A flat slab. Then another. The brothers looked at each other in the heat shimmer rising from the ground. Neither spoke. They continued carefully, clearing soil with their hands now, revealing what looked like fitted stonework. Not random, but intentional. Placed. Ramon struck once more with the pickaxe, and the earth gave way. Not dramatically, not like in stories. But the slab beneath cracked, and suddenly there was hollow space, a void underneath where should have been only more soil. A smell rose up, mineral, ancient, untouched. The brothers fell silent. "Don't," Diego whispered, as if sound itself might collapse whatever lay beneath. But Ramon had already widened the opening. He leaned down, squinting into shadow. Shapes, smooth surfaces. The reflection of something metallic catching the afternoon sun filtering through the hole. "Get the flashlight from the truck," Ramon said quietly. Diego hesitated for only a moment, then ran. What they found in those first minutes would become the pivot point of their lives, the moment everything divided into before and after. A chamber, underground, fitted with careful masonry. And inside, pottery so perfectly preserved it seemed impossible anything could survive 500 years. Jade figurines arranged on stone shelves. Gold, not oxidized, not corroded, but gleaming still. In vessels, in ornaments, in a crown positioned on what appeared to be the skeleton of a figure wrapped in textile so degraded it was nearly dust. "Dios mío," Diego breathed. Ramon felt his hands trembling, not from excitement, though that was there, but from understanding, in that instant, that they had just made themselves important to people who would not let them remain simple farmers. He turned off the flashlight. Darkness swallowed the chamber again. "We tell no one," he said. But it was already too late. Across the field, half hidden in the tree line that bordered their property, a man in a dust-colored shirt lowered binoculars and pulled out his phone. Chapter 2. The Weight of Knowing. The brothers didn't sleep that night. They sat in the kitchen of the small house where they'd both grown up, where their father had died 2 years earlier, the title to the land still bearing his name, though they worked it daily. A bottle of mezcal stood between them, barely touched. "We should call someone," Diego said for the 3rd time. "Call who? The police? They'll take it. The government will seize it. We'll lose everything. We'll lose everything anyway if we don't tell anyone. If someone finds out we're hiding it, no one knows," Ramon interrupted. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. Someone could know. Someone had been watching. Ramon had seen the movement in the trees, had caught the glint of the binoculars for just a fraction of a second. He'd told Diego nothing. The next morning, They returned to the site with tarps and rope. They covered the opening carefully, hiding it beneath branches and loose soil. Ramon had bought a padlock and chain in town. Expensive. Too much attention, but necessary. He wrapped it around the nearest tree and the rope securing the tarp. As he fastened it, a vehicle pulled up the dirt road leading to their property. An old truck, no markings. A man climbed out, 50 or so, with the bearing of someone accustomed to authority. He wore city clothes, sunglasses, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Morning," he called in Spanish with an accent Ramon couldn't immediately place. "Beautiful property you have here." Ramon straightened, his hand still on the padlock. Diego emerged from the house, moving slowly. "Thank you," Ramon said carefully. "Is there something you need?" "I represent several collectors interested in local archaeological items. Word travels in Tlaxcala. I heard you've been digging." The man's smile never wavered. "Thought I might make you an offer for anything you find. Very generous terms." Ramon felt the blood in his veins become ice. "We're just farming," Diego said quietly. "Of course. But if you find anything, pottery, artifacts, anything old, my number." He handed a card to Ramon, who didn't take it. The man placed it on the ground between them. "Very generous," he repeated. "You won't get a better offer." After he left, Ramon picked up the card. No name, only a phone number and the word collectors embossed in gold. "We need help," Diego said. For once, Ramon didn't argue. Chapter 3. The archaeologist Dr. Elena Vasquez worked for the Instituto Nacional de Antropología e Historia in Mexico City, but she spent most of her time in the field. At 46, with weathered skin and intelligent eyes, she'd devoted 2 decades to mapping and understanding pre-Columbian sites across central Mexico. The brothers had contacted her through a university website, sending a single photograph, poorly lit, taken on Diego's phone, of a jade figurine. She arrived in Tlaxcala within 3 days. "Show me," she said simply, setting down her field kit beside the covered opening. Ramon and Diego exchanged a look. In the daylight, with a professional present, the risk suddenly felt more concrete, but also less lonely. They uncovered the chamber. Elena descended into the hole with a headlamp and a rope. The brothers heard her breathing, audible even from above. Then silence. Then a low, wondering sound. "Ay Dios." When she emerged 40 minutes later, she was pale beneath her tan. "This is royal," she said. "Pre-Columbian royal, likely Tlaxcaltec nobility, mid-15th century. The textiles alone, if they can be preserved, would revolutionize what we know about dyeing techniques." She looked at the brothers. "How long has this been open?" "Since yesterday," Ramon said. "Then we're fortunate. The exposure hasn't damaged anything catastrophically yet, but the clock is ticking. The humidity cycle, insects, fungal spores, this needs to be properly excavated within days, not weeks. And it needs to be done carefully or everything will be lost." "What happens then?" Diego asked. "To us?" Elena removed her sunglasses. "Then it becomes public record. The site is protected. The artifacts go to the National Museum or to research institutions. And you become the people who saved your country's history." It sounded wonderful and terrible in equal measure. If you're enjoying this adventure so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Chapter 4. The Night Visitors. Elena made the calls that afternoon. Within 6 hours, a team was mobilized. Excavation permits were expedited. Unusual, but the significance of the find warranted it. By evening, a government truck arrived with supplies and 2 additional archaeologists. But that night, as they were setting up protective barriers around the site, the brothers received a visit. 3 men came through the fence line, not the collector from before, but hired hands. They were calm, professional, and carried machetes at their belts. The lead man addressed Elena directly. "The site is being shut down," he said in Spanish. "By order of the landowner, Señor Gabriela Reyes. You're all trespassing." Elena stood perfectly still. "The land belongs to the Martinez brothers." "No. The land is claimed by Señor Reyes. He has documentation. You should leave. After they walked back into the darkness, Elena made a phone call to someone high in the ministry. Within an hour, 2 federal officers arrived and set up a perimeter. They would stay through the night. Reyes must have discovered what you'd found, Elena explained to Ramon and Diego as they sat in the house drinking coffee at 3 in the morning. He'll claim the property was always his, that your father purchased it illegally, or that there's a title dispute. By the time it's resolved in court, he hopes the artifacts will have been removed or damaged beyond value. So what do we do? Diego asked. We excavate as fast as we ethically can, and we document everything. If the artifacts are logged, photographed, cataloged, they become official. He can't make them disappear then. Ramon nodded, understanding now why Elena had chosen this work, why someone would spend their life in the heat and dust fighting against time and human greed to preserve what belonged to everyone. Chapter 5. The gold beneath. The excavation took 4 days. Elena and her team worked with painstaking precision, brushing away soil grain by grain, photographing every layer, marking every position. The brothers helped where they could, learning as they went. They discovered that the chamber was larger than initially apparent. It extended deeper beneath the surface, with a secondary chamber connected by a carved stone passage. In that second chamber lay the gold. Not in enormous quantity, but concentrated and pristine. A ceremonial breastplate wrought with intricate designs depicting jaguars and serpents. A collection of gold figurines, ornate bells that would have hung from clothing or regalia. And a mask. Pure gold. Its surface worked with such delicacy that it captured emotion even in stillness. This is museum quality, one of the archaeologists whispered, photographing it from multiple angles. This is world class. But the most significant discovery was neither the jewelry nor the gold. It was a codex, a book of folded bark paper, its glyphs still visible, describing what appeared to be the genealogy of the person entombed. Names, dates, records. This could rewrite our understanding of Tlaxcaltec nobility, Elena said, her voice trembling slightly. This is history speaking directly to us. The night before the artifacts were to be transported to Mexico City, Ramon stood at the edge of the excavation pit. The chamber below was now empty, only the carved stone walls remaining. Diego joined him, standing in silence. We did it, Diego said finally. We did. I thought we'd be richer, Diego admitted. Ramon almost smiled. We are, just not the way we expected. Chapter 6. The Legacy. The discovery became news across Mexico and internationally. Universities wanted to study the codex. Museums requested the artifacts for exhibition. The brothers' names appeared in academic papers. Señor Reyes's claim to the property dissolved almost immediately. Once the federal government's interest became clear, the land itself, now recognized as an archaeological site, was protected by federal law. The brothers retained ownership and were offered a substantial compensation by the government for allowing the site to be preserved and studied in place. It was enough to modernize their farm, to upgrade equipment, to ensure financial stability for years to come. But the real transformation was less tangible. 3 months after the excavation, Elena returned to the property. She brought photographs and news. The codex had revealed previously unknown connections between Tlaxcaltec and other Nahua peoples. The mask had been dated and confirmed as late 15th century royal regalia. A university in Mexico City was establishing a research center partly named after the site. And she brought something else, a letter from the Mexican government, indicating that the brothers' farm would be included in a new archaeological park initiative, with educational programs and visitors from around the world. You found more than treasure, Elena told them as they stood looking out over the land. You found proof. Proof that the people who lived here, who built things, who created beauty and recorded their history, that they mattered. That they still matter. Diego nodded slowly, understanding. Ramon thought of his father, who had worked this soil all his life, unknowingly guarding a secret buried centuries before he was born. The gold and jewelry would go to museums. The knowledge would go to scholars. But the connection, the unbroken line from past to present, the understanding that this place held stories, that remained with them. On their farm in Tlaxcala, two brothers had dug too deep, and in the darkness, they found not just artifacts, but the truth that even in the smallest places, history waits to be remembered. If this treasure hunt already has you hooked, hit the like button. It helps us bring more forgotten stories to light. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of discovery and hidden history. See you in the next adventure.